rebuilding. The catastrophic failure, a new start. Physically, mentally, our careers, our businesses. Step back, first step, next step. The driver in me just wants to get it done tomorrow. We'll do this, do that, let's move this, where are we at with this? You build some confidence, build some self-esteem, start to feel better about yourself. The Silverback Blueprint Podcast, a show for men over 40 who focus on getting stronger, staying motivated, building discipline, creating a community, and becoming truly happy. Hostile Gear. We got a new shirt that's come out. It's called, it's our Crush a DM t-shirt. Everyone says Carpe Diem, seize the day. And I'm like, fuck that. Crush the day. That's what I like putting out there. It's one of our taglines. And I really mean that. You know, I mean, you decide how that day is going to go. And, you know, going above and beyond the internet meme of, you know, seize the day and, you know, rise and grind. I really mean it. Crush a DM. Get up and take action and go after that motherfucker. So, a lot of people have been asking me for a while, when am I going to do a shirt on it? So we just did it. It's a black shirt with some cool gray ink on it. Looks really sharp. And just across the front, Crush a DM. And, you know, I like what it signifies and I like what it means. So head on over to hostilegear.com. Use the promo code at checkout, Silverback, and save 20%. So look, you get the Crush today and you get to save some money. It's a win-win. Today on episode 36, I want to talk about the blame game. Again, you know, we decide when we're going to take what responsibility for our successes, which we often tend to want to do quite easily, and when we're going to take the blame for our failures or shortcomings or not living up to our potential and what we feel our potential is. I don't give a fuck what someone else thinks our potential is. That's great when we have kids and we're trying to get them to raise to their potential and teach them that until they have a better understanding of themselves and what that means. But other than that, you know, it doesn't matter what someone else thinks you should be doing. It really matters about what you think you should be doing. You know, I say, you know, the most important form of respect out there is self-respect. And once you acquire that and you have a strong sense of your self-respect, it opens up a ton of doors. It's not a license to be a fucking douchebag, right? That's not what I'm talking about. In fact, you know, when I look at things, I more and more I try to look at things as, am I doing something that's a win-win for both sides? Even if I have an issue with somebody, how do I make this so that we both benefit from this dilemma or this situation or this interaction, right? And I find the more I can do that and the more I can think about that, I find I just like who I'm becoming more and more, and I like how I feel at the end of it, right? Most people will never remember what you said to them. Most people will never remember what you did with them, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And I think that's super important. I think in business, it's really important. Now, I'm not talking about the classic, the customer is always right, because I do not believe in that. I think if you find the right customer for you, then that's going to be a lot easier. Then it's a matter of you looking out for your customer and taking care of them. But usually if you have a good customer, they're good customers and they'll get that there's mistakes and they'll get that there's issues and stuff like that. And they just want to be dealt with humanely and with respect, right? It always comes back to that respect thing. But when we come back and talk about the blame game, you know, it's really important that we understand that whatever we're going through, good or bad, but typically this comes when we're dealing with something that's a negative, right? A tough situation, a stressful situation. It's very easy for us to want to turn around and blame something or someone or some event and stuff. But nine times out of 10, if not higher, statistically, I don't know what it is, but we're in the situation we're in based on a bunch of decisions we made along the way, right? So, you know, if we decide that we're going to focus and get things done, we're going to get more things done. If we decide that we're going to put shit off till tomorrow, right, and we're going to fucking Netflix, you know, for 4 hours a night and pretend that we don't have time for stuff, well, that's going to work itself out down the line too. But either way, either scenario, there's no one to blame but ourselves, right? And I think that for me is something that I look at all the time. You know, we don't get to where we are, you know, in our 40s. Obviously, you know, I'm talking to you guys in your 40s, 50s, and 60s, and some really cool 70-year-olds listening to the show. And, you know, things happen to us. There's no doubt. Sometimes we've had crazy shit happen to us, right? And certain things that happen to us, we can't blame ourselves at that point for what happened, but we do have to take control and responsibility of ourselves afterwards, especially once we become aware. For me, facing and dealing with my alcoholism and stuff, there's a lot of things that, come into play when I look at how that came about, why I'm an alcoholic, whatever. There's certain things that definitely, were shitty. And, I wouldn't want that to happen to somebody else, someone I care about. But at the end of the day, there's a point where I can't keep blaming that for my actions, not for my current actions, not for the current way I think, not for the things that I do that do not benefit my goal, my cause, my vision, my happiness, right? There's a point where I have to take responsibility and say, all right, whatever may have happened, right? That was then, that's in the past. We're dealing with the present and we're moving towards the future, right? So that's where I believe we become responsible. Right? That's where we are the ones to blame if things work out, and we're the ones to blame if things don't work out, right? And a really cool thing I saw just the other day on Anthony Robbins, he was putting stuff out there, and he had a really cool thing, and he was saying, listen, if we want to blame our past, our situations for everything that's gone wrong, we should be ready to blame those same situations for what's gone right. Because the things we've had to deal with, the negative stuff, the positive stuff, our mistakes, other people's mistakes, it's what shaped us. It's what shaped us to get to this point. So any success we've had, we also have to look back and say, hey, part of this success stems from the fact that I've developed whatever, skill set or capabilities or whatever. And what shaped us towards that are all the things we've gone through, positive and negative, right? So we have to give it credit as well. Right? I'm not saying if it was negative, there was terrible things done to us that was ever okay. That's not what I'm saying. And if you want to run with that, you're missing my point completely. What I'm saying is the good and the bad and the ugly, classic Clint Eastwood reference, right? That happened there, that's happened to us, is what shapes us to the person that we are today. And then we need to look at what's good about us, what we like about us, what we'd like to improve about us. And then at the same time, on that same sheet of paper on the other side of the line, what's not good about us? What's bad about us? What is negative about us? What needs to be worked on? What do we need to be ruthlessly honest about? We've talked about that before, right? Being honest with ourselves and having an inventory. And looking at those things and accepting them, but accepting the fact that they don't have to define us. Right? And that's the tough part, guys. That's the things that, really stop so many people, in their journey and in their progress, is the tough stuff, the hard stuff, right? We have to, take ownership of it, because until we take ownership of it, we cannot change anything. We can't do anything about it. We can't, if we leave things in other people's hands, if we let other people's actions influence that much influence us that much, our emotions and our feelings, and we honestly leave that power with them, then we leave ourselves powerless. So we have to stop doing that, right? And that's, for me, that danger about the blaming and stuff, right? I deal with people all the time. I deal with people who come in and want to rebuild and change their lives, right? That's our business. That's what we're all about. That's what we do at Hostile, And I can always tell when the person is ready to make the next step because the language changes, right? Their demeanor changes. And it's usually all about what's been holding them back rather than who. So if I hear a conversation and I'm like, well, I'm too busy at work and I have too much going on at home and my husband doesn't want to help me, or my wife doesn't get it and stuff like that, you know what? We're blaming, right? At the end of the day, we're putting it on them. We're giving them the power. Now, don't turn into a fucking jerk and abandon things, but turn around and say, you know what? I do have 45 minutes. I can move my schedule around. I can take control of my day, and I can start to do the things I need to do to better myself, that I want to do to better myself, right? Only we have the power to do that. Now, ideally, we're going to do it in an adult way and not forget to feed and bathe our children, right? If we have to, not neglect our partners emotionally or physically or financially to do that as well, right? That's not cool. That's not the way we do it, right? And I see that happen as well. And I'm like, well, it's great. You're moving yourself forward, but you're doing it now at the expense of a lot of other people that depend on you, right? Again, that's the easy way to do it. So we have to look at that. If we're in a situation where we have families, well, we have responsibility to those families, whatever that situation is. So at the end of the day, we need to find a way within those parameters, I feel, to improve ourselves, get better, move ourselves forward, but at the same time, maintain our responsibility to others. In fact, what's really cool is if you can start to do that and empower yourself and take control and make yourself better and you start to feel better mentally. You start to have more self-esteem, more confidence, and you start to feel better physically. You have more energy and you have more strength. Well, you know what's going to happen? Those very same people that depend on you are going to start to reap those benefits as well. You're going to have more energy. You're going to be more positive. Maybe you're not going to be as stressed, and all of a sudden they're not going to be as stressed, right? Every family dynamic is different, right? No situation is perfect, and no matter how it is, we own, I like to say at least 60% of the situation. If everyone believed that they were 60% at fault for what's going on, which I think odds are would be a lot less, but if everyone felt that way, I think we'd go out of our way to do a little bit better for ourselves and for the others, so that the end game would be everybody in that situation, everybody in that family would start to really benefit, because the other person is starting to look out for the other people as much as they are for themselves, right? But that's a whole different thing, right? At the end of the day, though, I think it's the power of stop blaming others. Don't blame anybody else, right? Take responsibility, right? Now, you might be in a fucking shitty situation, but then you take the responsibility to change that situation, right? Now, it might be having conversations that are uncomfortable. It might be putting your foot down with certain things. It might be removing yourself from the situation, right? And herein lies the difficulty in that, is that a lot of people are going to be very hard-pressed to remove themselves from a situation because they feel uncomfortable. They feel like, at least I know this. And the fear of the unknown, all those things often overpower their desire to change a situation. Someone breaks up after being together for 10, 15, 20 years. Their biggest fear, I don't care who you are and what you say, their biggest fear is being alone. Some people would rather go through all kinds of shit than ever face 5 minutes alone. And that's crazy. But it's crazy if you're not in it. If you're in it, it's a real thing. Some people, it's financial, right? I got everything tied up in this house. I got everything else. All of a sudden, if this doesn't work, I'm not even going to be able to do 2 vacations a year. I might not be able to keep my kids in sports. Who knows what your fears are financially and stuff like that. Again, at the end of the day, your kids are going to remember you being happy. They're not going to remember the material stuff. They're going to remember the happiness in the home. And they're going to remember the fun times, right? So we'll do what we can to give them more of that. And we can't do that until we're ready to have fun times ourselves and do what's right and stuff. Taking control of a situation often takes so much of the stress out of it as well. Leaving things up in the air and in the unknown is stressful, right? Knowing what's coming and having a chance to deal with it or work with it or face it, 9 times out of 10, what we're afraid of is rarely anywhere near what we thought it was going to be, right? We just build it up in our minds. We get all kinds of crazy shit going on. We just start thinking about what the possibilities that could happen and stuff. And then when we get to it and we deal with it, so many times it's nowhere near as bad as we thought it was going to be, right? But we got to work that. We got to get better at that. We got to focus on that. But we'd rather not do anything about it and then just blame, because it's so fucking easy to blame, right? The hard part is not to blame anymore. The hard part is to sit there and make yourself accountable and start to take control of the things that you can control. And the things that you can't control, you have to learn to have the wisdom to sit there and say, this is something that's out of my control, right? That's one of the sayings in one of the prayers or small things that we say in Alcoholics Anonymous is grant me the strength to deal with the things that I have to, and change the things that I can, and accept the things that I can't, and have the wisdom to know the difference, right? That's very powerful, and that works on a lot of levels and stuff, right? But it all comes down to, we have to sit there, and all we can control is ourselves. We can decide if we're going to get mad. We can decide how long we're going to be mad. We can decide how long until we're happy again. We can decide our happiness. We can decide we're going to do something about it. And a lot of times, once we start taking action towards something, we feel so much better because we're doing something. Inside, something starts to open up because we're moving towards something, right? Nowhere in the last 10 minutes have I said any of this is easy, right? It's not easy. Fuck the easy part, guys. You have to stop going for the easy, because easy doesn't make us happy, right? Going through the stuff, getting things done, persevering, that's what builds character, self-esteem, and confidence, and makes us appreciate things once we get through it and stuff, right? So again, at the end of the day, guys, that's how I feel about the blame game. If you have any comments on that, feel free to share them with me. Head on over to iTunes, and if you can, we'd love if you gave us a 5-star review. If you're not subscribed to us, please subscribe, share, tell people. Again, kurthaas@gmail.com. If you have any questions or comments or more death threats. It was really low in the death threats this week, I have to admit. I only got 3. I may have sent one to myself. So at the end of the day, listen, I respond to all emails. I do what I can. And, get out there, guys, and, don't just seize today, crush today.